So they won't be able to hear us until you let them in? Okay. Good evening and welcome to the virtual financial aid night. We're so happy you've joined us tonight, taking time out of your day. I'm so happy to introduce my friend and coworker, Ernika Webster, who's going to give you a presentation about how to read your financial aid award offer letter. And then afterwards, we're going to do a Q&A. So here we go. Ernika, I'm going to give it over to you, okay?
Thank you, Natalie, and welcome everyone. Like Natalie said, my goal tonight is to hopefully answer your questions when it comes to your offer letter, because most of you have already received your offer letter, and most of you are probably looking at it like, I think I understand it, but maybe I don't. I'm going to try to figure it out myself. So I hope tonight that I'm able to answer those questions. I hope me explaining everything in detail gives you a better understanding of your offer letter. And like Natalie said, as we go along and I'm talking and you're thinking something, you want to ask a question, put it in the Q&A box and I won't talk as long, but I'll save room for us to go through as many questions as we can tonight. So what I'm going to do is, you all can see me, I can't see you, but I'm going to share my screen so we can start the presentation. So I want to start here at the first slide because I want you to write down our financial aid office number and our email address in case you don't already have it. And that way, you know, we will have any follow-up questions you don't want to ask on live. You can shoot us an email and we'll be happy to answer your question, whether it's email or phone number. So let's begin. Okay, so on your offer letter, you have 4 different sections. Some may have all 4 and some may only have 1. It really all depends on what you've been offered from the financial aid office. But if you have all 4, these are the sections that we're going to go through on your offer letter. So the first section is your institutional funding, right? So that's what we at Washington College is offering you, institutional aid. So the first section is your merit-based scholarship. So your merit-based scholarship, that's what our admissions office has offered you based on your high school GPA, SAT scores, and your high school regiment. That's what we're saying, okay, based on how of a good student that you are in high school, this is what we're offering you from our admissions office. So when you receive your acceptance letter, you already are aware of what your merit-based scholarship is. But we include that on your offer letter as well. Your merit-based scholarship can range from $25,000 to $35,000 for a year. Next section is your need-based grant. Okay, not everyone qualifies for a need-based grant. That's totally based off of your FAFSA. So how we determine how much you receive in need-based is really determined by your EFC. Now, some of you may say, well, what's the EFC? Oh, I hit the wrong button. Sorry. Some of you may say, well, what's the EFC? EFC is your expected family contribution number. And that's the guideline number that most institutions use in order to determine how much financial aid you receive. So same thing we do here at Washington College. What we do is we look at that EFC number and we subtract out your cost of attendance, which is your tuition, your room, and your meal plan, and we come up with what we call an amount of need. And then we take that number and do some calculations to determine how much need-based grant you may qualify for, if you even qualify for it. So the amount may vary from one student to the next because it's based on that EFC. So if you look at your offer letter and you have both merit and need-based, that's great. If you don't, that's fine too, okay? The next section we're going to talk about is your federal grants. So you have your federal Pell Grant, which honestly, we have no control over that. That's automatically generated once your FAFSA application comes into us. So actually, if you pay attention to your FAFSA application at the end after you sign it, you'll see there on the end of the section after you sign it, it'll list out all the schools you signed up for. It'll list out what your EFC is. And if you qualify for the federal Pell Grant, it'll also tell you how much Pell you receive. So you will know before your institution even knows. So Pell Grant can, Pell Grant, you can earn up to $6,495 per year if you qualify for it. And again, the Department of Education determines who qualifies for the Pell, but it is based on that EFC. So that EFC is important and really determines a lot of the aid that you could qualify for, not only here, but other institutions as well. So then the next one is what we call SEOG, short for Supplemental Education Opportunity Grant. And here at Washington College, we determine that based on we give it to our neediest students, right? So if you qualify for it, you can get up to $2,000 a year in SEOG. So if you see that on there, you know you received it. Then next we have state funding, and state funding is for our Maryland residents, right? So if you're a Maryland resident, because you're attending a Maryland school, you may qualify for state funding. The Maryland Department, the Maryland Higher Education Commission, they have two different grants that I listed here, but they also have two other grants, which are senatorial and delegate grants, right? So your EA grant is a grant that you could qualify for. Again, Maryland decides on if you qualify for that or not. You can get up to $3,000 a year for the EA grant. And then the GA grant, you could actually qualify for $19,400 a year if you qualify for it based off of Maryland Higher Education standards. Now, if you receive that grant, you see that on your award, then you know, okay, I received either the EA or the GA. Not all Maryland students will receive either or. Again, it's based off of the criteria that Maryland determines, okay? And then the last section that you'll have on your offer letter is other federal aid. So that's like work study. Work study, and Ms. Nat will probably chime in on work study a little later because she's the head honcho when it comes to work study. But work study is determined, again, by your FAFSA, right? So here, what we do is we offer to our neediest students again, and your EFC can be no more than $10,000 for us to say, okay, you qualify for the work study program. And we will award a student up to $3,000 a year in work study funding. And what that is what we're saying is that you qualify for the work study program, but you actually have to get the job and work the hours in order to earn it. So you have $3,000 you qualify for on your offer letter, but how much you earn is really up to you as a student. So once you get that job, once you determine how many hours you work, you put in the work, you get paid for what you work. We're saying you can earn up to $3,000, but if you don't make the whole $3,000, that's totally fine. We have some freshmen who said, okay, it's my first year. I really want to focus more on my studies. I may only want to put a couple hours in a week. Totally fine. So whatever you put in is what you get paid for. The only caveat to that is we don't use that towards your out-of-pocket costs. So if you see the work study on your award letter, we're not calculating that into your final balance that will be due. And you'll understand that a little more once we get to the other section of the presentation. Now, the last section is your federal loans, right? So a lot of times I get questions about the loans because Parents and students are confused. Is this my loan? Is it my child's loan? Who loan is it? Where is it coming from? So the Department of Education offers students federal loans. You can get one or two. You can get the federal subsidized loan or the federal unsubsidized loan. And the difference between the two is a couple of things. One, the federal subsidized loan is interest free. No interest is accruing while you have the loan. It is deferrable until 6 months after the student graduates. And if they decide to go to graduate school, it's 6 months after that. So your federal subsidized loan, you can get up to $3,500 as a freshman, okay? Now your federal unsubsidized loan is interest will start accruing once you decide to take the loan. Both of the interest rate is the same. This past year, prior to COVID, it was a fixed 2.75%. And like I said, the unsubsidized loan, the interest will start accruing once you decide to take the loan, right? So you may say, all right, I may only want to take one. That's totally fine. They're offered to you, but they're optional to take, okay? And another thing about the two loans is the subsidized loan will increase as your grade level increase. So like I said, for freshmen, the maximum you can get is $3,500. For sophomore is $4,500. And junior and senior year, you can be offered $5,500, okay? So I said all of that. Hopefully I didn't talk too fast. I have to slow myself down, but I want to next show you what an offer letter looks like. Like I said, you probably already know, but you still may have questions, right? So the first section here is your institutional aid. I'm trying to point my fingers, remembering that you can't see me in person. So we're going to go through it line by line, right? So in your offer letter at the top, it has your name, your address, and I highlighted the WCID because that is your student ID number. And that number will follow you the 4 years you're here at Washington College, right? So it's important to remember that number because that's your access to a lot of things here on campus. So it has your, welcome in and who you are, and then has a director's signature up there. So what I did with this sample offer letter, I wanted to list out all the possible, well, most of the possible scholarships that you could receive if you were to get the institutional, federal, the state, and the other federal, right? Again, some may have it, some may not have all of these. Totally fine, right? So the first one has your alumni scholarship. That is your merit. Total amount we have sectioned out though. You see your fall semester and your spring semester, and then your total amount, right? So you look at it and you say, well, why is this split up in two? That is because we bill you in 2 semesters. So what happens is come July, our business office will generate you a bill. So all your fall financial aid will go over to that bill for the fall semester, and then we'll do the same thing for the spring semester. So we split it up for you semester to semester and break it down because you're building 2 semesters. But we also have your total amount. So your alumni scholarship, you have $12,500 for $12,500, for the fall, and $12,500 for the spring, and $25,000 for the year. Go you. And then what we call is our Bird Scholarship, right? This is a new scholarship, but we had a few students who were offered a scholarship, and that scholarship actually came from our admissions office. So they have a few small scholarship opportunities. Some of you may already have the opportunity to apply for those. And if you received the award, congratulations. So if you received it, we updated your offer letter, and then we added it onto your financial aid. So for that scholarship, for the fall is $750, for the spring, $750, and the total amount is $1,500. Okay, what other institutional aid is your Washington College tuition grant? That is a need-based grant I talked about prior to this slide here. So this student, our place student, received $2,000 for the fall, $2,000 for the spring, and $4,000 for the year. Okay, that money is adding up. It's coming off that cost of attendance. That's what we like to see. Well, that's what the families like to see. All right, the next section is your federal grants that we talked about, your federal Pell Grant and your federal SCOG grant. So remember I said the maximum you can get is $6,495, but this student didn't get the maximum. They only received $3,000 total for the year in federal Pell, But because they qualify for the Pell and they also qualify for the SEOG, which I said before, the maximum you can get is $2,000 for that. All right, state grant. You see it here listed, the Maryland State EA grant. They receive for $1,500 per semester, $3,000 for the year. All right, so I listed out the work study, but you notice I have it highlighted, and I have that highlighted because we talked about it before. We will list it on the offer letter, but it won't be included in the final number, and you'll see that on the next slide. But I have the work study listed here, $1,500 per semester, $3,000 for the year. And then you have your direct subsidized loan, $1,750, $3,500 for the year. And a federal unsubsidized loan, same thing, $1,000 for the fall, $1,000 for the spring, total amount of $2,000. So this student has a total award amount of $47,000. I did it even to help me with my math. So a total of $47,000 in financial aid. That is awesome, right? Because cost of attendance is $64,204. So this student done knocked down a lot of money already. Go student. So this is laying out what we're offering you. The next section, which is the Washington College Financial Plan, which would have been the second page in your financial aid packet. This is going to break it down for you, right? So I get a lot of questions because I'm the incoming and prospective student counselor. So most of the calls come to me, right? So a lot of times I get questions, I don't understand what I'm looking at, Ms. Webster. And I'm like, it's okay, let me explain it to you. So we break it down in sections for you so you can know, okay, well, what is my out-of-pocket cost, right? So the first section is the direct cost. We talked about that before. It's your cost of attendance. It's your tuition and fees for $50,842. It's your housing and meal plan for $13,362. So the total cost of attendance is $64,204 for your freshman year. Now, I like to tell families cost of attendance could increase between 2 to 4% from year to year. So parents take that into account when you're thinking about next year and the year after that and the year after that. So gift aid, this is just the institutional aid, all the free money, right? So anytime you see scholarship and grants, that's free money. You do not have to pay that back. That's what I always tell my families. Free money, you don't pay it back, okay? As long as you maintain that GPA, which is important, right? So this is all your gift aid because it's free. So when you receive a gift, it's free. You don't have to give it back because it's a gift, right? So your institutional grants and scholarship, that's all the institutional aid that we calculated from the previous slide. And then plus your federal grants, your Pell for $3,000, your SEOG for $2,000, your Maryland State Grant and Scholarship for $3,000. So the total here is $38,500. You notice it's different from that 47, right? Because the next section, we break it down your work study. Your work study is not included in that section because it's not free. Well, technically it is, but you have to work for it, so it's not really free, right? So that work study is on the next section because you have to earn it. And then we list out the subsidized and unsubsidized loan in the next section because it's a loan, you have to pay it back, right? So if you add up the 38.5, the 3,000, the 3,500, and 2,000, it should be 47,000 if I did my calculations right. And that will be the equal amount that's on the offer letter from the previous slide, right? So then you say, okay, so what's my out-of-pocket cost, Ms. Webster? You're saying all of this. That's your next section. Your total direct cost minus your gift aid, minus your loans. Again, we did not include a work study because you have to put in the work for it. This student out-of-pocket cost is the $20,204, okay? If I'm wrong, forgive me, right? But it should come out correct, right? Because we didn't add in the work study. But if they take their loans, that is how much you owe. Now, what if you said, I don't want any of the loans. I don't want my child to have the loans for the first year. I want to try to do it on my own. Perfectly fine. What you will have to do is incorporate that $5,500 that we offered in loans into that $20,204. So then your balance will increase by the $5,500 because you choose not to take the loans, which is totally fine, okay? So then you have this section, all right, I don't want to get any more loans. Okay. I just want them to have the 2 loans that they're offered. I don't want them to get any other loans. Can I just do a payment plan? Absolutely, right? So our business office, they offer you a monthly payment plan. They have 2 options, which is what we're looking at the bottom. So the first section says payment plan for 4 months and payment plan for 5 months. What's the difference? 4 months installments, 5 months installments. If you decide to do the 5-month installment, you will start your payment plan in July. If you decide to do the 4-month installments, you will start your payment plan in August. Whichever one you want to do is totally fine with us. What I will say is have that decision made prior to the bill generating. That way you'll know what the true amount is going to be that you owe. By then you'll know your housing status for your child. You'll know the meal plan that they're going to take and all that good stuff. Now, mind you, with me saying that, this is based on traditional housing and meal plan. So if you change anything, don't hold me to these numbers because they're estimated. Even your offer letter you have now, it's an estimation because we based it off the traditional cost. But if you change it, or things are different when that final bill come out, that could be why. Okay. So if you decide to do the 4-month payment plan and you want to take the loans, your total monthly payment is the $2,525.50. If you decide not to take the loans and do the 4-month payment, your monthly payments will be $3,213. So if you decide to do the 5-month payment plan with the loans, it is $2,020.40 a month. And without the loans, it's $2,570.40 a month. Okay. I hope I made sense and I hope you understand how to read the offer letter and how to understand the financial plan that came along with it. Like I said, section by section, right? And then do your calculations, determine if you're going to take the loans, determine if you're going to do the work study. And as far as the work study program, the students get to earn the $3,000, like I said before, and they get a paycheck, right? So mom and dad, you don't have to send them that, money for pizza and all that good stuff that they may want. Have them do their work study and earn the money. Now, also, if you don't have work study, guess what? You still can get a job on campus. Honestly, we employed a little over 100 students, if that, in work study program. Now, this is prior to COVID, right? And then we employed like almost $500-600 non-work study. So there's a lot of non-work study jobs available for students. So don't fret if you don't have work study on your offer letter. You still have opportunities to work on campus, okay? Next slide. Hopefully I left enough time. I'm doing good. Okay, so how do you view your offer letter on your self-service account? So hopefully you all have already signed up for your self-service portal. And if so, if not, you can go to this link. It'll take you to your self-service portal, and everything I just explained will be on self-service for you. And this is how it looks like. This is what it looks like on self-service, right? Same thing. It sections it out, your scholarships, your grants, and then at the bottom, your subsidized and unsubsidized loan, right? So I'm gonna put in a plug, right? Because I have the opportunity to do that. So if you decide to take your loans, there are 2 other things you need to do as a student. You see where at the bottom it says loan requirement checklist. You'll get an email probably after mid-May from our office telling you that you need to complete your promissory note and your loan counseling session. So this will be here until those 2 things are done, okay? No worry about it tonight. We'll send you more information about it. But I just want to let you know when you're looking on self-service, that will be there too as well. All right, I'm almost done. Oh, I talked about this. Say I got to hit it myself. But I'm just explaining to you how fall bills are generated, like I said, in July. They're due the first week in August. Spring bills are generated the first week in December, and they do the first week in January. Okay. And like I said, we will coordinate all this information to you, before the time frame comes. So no worries. And on your student self-service portal, you will be able to see your bill, your financial aid, your housing, and all that good stuff. Okay. So I left this slide in here because you're like, okay, Miss Webster, you explain all the free money, right? You explain all the student loans, but I still have a balance, right? So what am I supposed to do with that? I tried to plant that money tree out in the campus garden, but they was like, no, so I can't give you more free money. But I have a way that you could get other funding to help you pay the cost of attendance, right? So it's totally up to you. We have these two other options outside of monthly payment plans for our families. The first one is the Federal Direct Plus Loan. This is for parents who want to borrow on behalf of their child, and the amount you want to borrow is based off of how much you owe. So I say if you want to go that route as a parent, you want to help your student get through the college career and take on that responsibility for them and pay that out-of-pocket cost with getting a Parent Plus loan, definitely do this loan, right? As far as you applying for the loan, it is done online. And if you want, I can send you information. You can go to our website as well to find out more information about the Plus loan. You do the application. We usually say around May to do the application because we say we like for your credit to be within 90 days from when we disperse it. And when you get the loan, once you apply, you get the decision right then and there. We get it within 24 hours, right? What I would recommend, whether you do the parent loan or the private loan, get the loan for the full year amount, right? Even though I said you're building 2 semesters, when it comes to getting your loan, you want to get it for the for year amount, excuse me, because you don't want them, now I'm not saying you have to, but you don't want them to have to run your credit more than once. So I always recommend the families just get the loan to cover for the whole year. That way you don't have to go back and worry about doing it all over for the spring. So that's my recommendation. You don't have to listen to me. It's just my recommendation. But rather you do the Parent Plus loan or the alternative loan, that's what I would recommend. So alternative loans, that's just you going to a local bank or a credit union or another institution that offers student loans. Those loans are available to student borrowers with a creditworthy cosigner. So that's like Johnny is on the loan, but mom and dad is co-signing behind them. So, like I said, if you're already established with the bank, I usually tell families go that route or just Google and find a private lender to apply to. We can't recommend a certain lender, but I always say do your homework, right? Because when you're looking at private lenders, you want to look at what's the interest rate? Is it fixed or is it variable? How much can I get approved for? When do I have to pay it back? Is it deferrable? Is it not deferrable? So even when you're looking to the Parent Plus loan or the private loans, do your homework, and you have time to do it. It's a big decision, right? Whether you're borrowing $5,000 or $10,000 or $500, you still want to know how you're supposed to pay it back. You still want to know what are the details and the terms and conditions of those loans. So do your homework, no matter which direction you go in. Okay. So then you may say, well, I only want to borrow $10,000, right? But my balance is $15,000. So some families borrow 10, do the payment plan for the other 5. You can do a combination of all 3 of these, totally up to you. Okay. Oh, that's it. All right, I did good. So hopefully, again, I answer your questions. Hopefully you have a better understanding of how the offer letter works. I left my information up here as well before Ms. Nat comes on to do the Q&A section. I left my information up here. So if you have questions or you want to, talk more about how the offer letter works, or, you just didn't understand it and you didn't want to ask in the chat box, please feel free to reach out to me, email or phone number, and hopefully I can answer your question. So now I'm gonna give it back over to Nat because I've done enough talking. She's gonna go through the Q&A section, and I'm gonna go ahead and come out of this, and that way we can finish the session.
Thank you, Arnika. I really appreciate all the hard work you've done. So the first question that we've received is, how can we apply for work study jobs? Are there any jobs that are related to specific majors, such as pre-med? Well, work study is awarded based on the student's expected family contribution, as Mrs. Webster's already said. So if you have need and you have an expected family contribution less than $10,000, and you indicated that you wanted work study, then work study was awarded to you. But if you don't see work study on your offer letter, don't fret, because there are several kinds of jobs on campus. There's federal work study jobs. There are also general campus employment positions. So if your student wasn't awarded a federal work study position, we actually have a great service available on campus called JobX, where everybody posts positions that are available from all different kinds of departments. So if your student's a pre-med major and they might want to work for the vivarium, which is in the psychology department, where they work with lab animals, or if your student wants to work for chemistry, those professors might post not only federal work study positions, but also general campus employment positions, which means your students don't have to apply for federal work study or have work study to apply for them. So don't worry about that. If you have a federal work study position question that you would like to pose to me, please email me at nstory2@washcoll.edu, and I will be very happy to answer that question for you. Okay? Yeah, well, the next question is there a limit on how many scholarships you can receive? Well, actually, yes, technically, according to the federal government, there is. So a student cannot receive more scholarships or aid than their cost of attendance. So let me please explain that. So let's just say the cost of attendance, which includes tuition fees, room and board, books, supplies, miscellaneous expenses. You can't exceed those costs. But if you receive aid, then we will just outside scholarship. We'll put it on your financial aid. You just have to email us those donor scholarships. But it's really very rare that a student receives more in scholarships and financial aid than their actual cost of attendance. So there's two different costs of attendances. There is a cost of attendance for direct expenses, which include tuition fees, room and board. And then there's cost of attendance for full expenses, which it also includes transportation, personal expenses, books and supplies. So if you have a question about that, again, you can email the fa_office@washcoll.edu, and we'll be happy to answer that. But it's really very rare that a student receives more in financial aid than they actually have a cost of attendance for. The next question is there a limit to how many scholarships you can receive? Will my financial aid package change every year? Or can I expect my billed amount to be the same every year? Well, actually, there's a couple of parts of that question. So the billed amount for your costs every year is due to what the institution determines is what they're going to charge for things like tuition fees, room and board. So tuition fees, room and board can probably go up every year. It's really based on the market. It's based on the financial needs of the institution. So student costs can go up every year for direct expenses. So you can expect probably to receive a bill higher than you may have received the year before. We don't really like to do that, but I mean, that's based on what the institution determines as acceptable or, viable. So yeah, there is a limit on the number of scholarships you can receive, because again, you can't receive any more scholarships or aid based on your actual cost of attendance. So that cost of attendance is again based on tuition, fees, room and board, transportation, personal expenses, and room and transportation. So there's all those things factored into that. So you can't receive more aid than you have to pay to the college, but we will notify you of that. It's really rare that it happens. It has not happened that often, but I mean, we will talk to you. Sometimes if you receive scholarships that are outside scholarships that go over your cost for all your cost of attendance, there are times when we can have the scholarship donor like defer your scholarship to the next year when you may need it. So they're very good options for that kind of issue. Okay, so the next question is, if we accept the loans, when we start making payments. So if the student accepts the loans, here are the conditions under which they have to start making payments. As Ms. Webster already described, there are subsidized loans and unsubsidized loans. So here's a good breakdown on what the differences are. So if you have a subsidized loan, that means the government's going to pay your interest on your subsidized loan as long as you're in school, at least half time, and during your grace period. So let's just say you go to school for a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year, and then you go right to graduate school and you're at least half time. So the government is going to not only pay the interest on those loans for your subsidized, which means subsidy, but they're also going to like defer your payments on the principal on those loans for all the time that you're in school going towards a degree or certificate program. But they're also going to like not make you pay any payments. On the unsubsidized loans, you don't get a subsidy for the unsubsidized loan. So if you don't pay the interest while you're in school, it's going to accrue. So you have the option during that time to either pay the interest on those loans while it's accruing, or just let it accrue. And then when you go into repayment, when you're finally done school or you're not a student anymore, you're going to have to go into repayment. So you're going to have to pay the interest that's accrued on those unsubsidized loans when you go into repayment. But it's usually, let's just say it's a normal 1, 2, 3, 4 undergraduate program. You won't have to pay the principal on either your subsidized or your unsubsidized loan while you're in school, which is good. But for the subsidized loan, the government's paying your subsidy on your interest. But for the unsubsidized loan, that interest could be accruing. So you have the option of either paying it while you're in school or just letting it accrue. And then you'll have to start paying it, the accrued interest, once you start going into repayment. Oh, the interest for the federal loans. If you could just give me a minute, I will look that up right now.
Nat, it prior to COVID, it was 2.75%.
Yes. So yes, that interest changes every year, July 1st. And there's also, I want parents to know and students to know that every federal loan has an origination fee. So that means that in order to get the loan, the government's going to charge either the student or the parent for the parent loan an origination fee. For the students, it's around 1%. So when you borrow that loan, you're only going to get 99% of whatever you borrowed. For the parents, it's a little higher, and that changes October 1st every year. So just be aware of that. So it's, let's see, if you want to Google that, you can just go to Federal Student Aid and ask what the origination fees are, and they'll let you know that. Okay. Is the Francis Waters Presidential Fellow Scholarship every year for 4 years? Well, that's actually one of the scholarships that are awarded by our admissions program. So there are conditions under which students can receive their admissions merit scholarships, and the student has to maintain a 2.5 cumulative grade point average every year in order to retain their admissions merit scholarships. But we don't look at that until the end of each May. So if you start off in your fall and you have sort of a kind of tricky semester, and then by the end of spring, you've got a 2.5, then you're fine. But yes, there's a 2.5 GPA that you have to have, and you only get that for 8 semesters. So we give it to you for 8 semesters and you have to maintain a 2.5. Will my financial aid package change every year? I can expect to be billed the amount to be the same every year. Well, again, that's based on what the college charges for tuition and fees. So if you file your FAFSA for your freshman year and you get a big grant, and then you file your FAFSA for your sophomore year and your expected family contribution goes way up, you may lose those grant dollars. You won't lose the merit dollars at all unless you don't have the cumulative grade point average. But yes, if your expected family contribution increases to the point where you're not eligible for the Washington College grant dollars, then you could lose those grant dollars. Do you include things like transportation around campus, shuttle buses, or other miscellaneous costs? Not in your financial aid package. So the financial aid package is strictly based on directly billed costs. So the college will bill the students for tuition, fees, room, and board. There are other charges that the college could charge you for, like your parking sticker, if you have to have a shuttle. But the financial aid packages do not cover anything other than tuition, fees, room, and board from institutional and expected family contribution funds. Now, parents can take out PLUS loans or borrow private loans to help cover costs like that, but institutional funds do not cover those kinds of things. And costs for transportation and fees aren't covered by institutional funds, but they can be covered by private loans and our Parent PLUS loans. That's actually for Washington College scholarships. Someone is asking, are there any scholarships we can still apply for? That's actually an admissions question. I'm not sure when the deadline is for applying for admission scholarships. However, every student in high school has the opportunity to start looking for outside and private scholarships, especially if you're a Maryland student, because as Mrs. Webster already said, there are the senatorial and delegate scholarships. So if you're a Maryland resident, the time to apply for those was about February, March, but that doesn't mean that you can't contact your district legislator and senator and ask if there are funds available for those senatorial and delegate scholarships. And I encourage you to do so, because sometimes students apply for those and they are awarded to them, but they go to a school outside of Maryland and they can't take them with them. So my suggestion would be, if you're a Maryland resident and you haven't applied for a senatorial or delegate scholarship, to contact your local legislators and ask them, I'm sorry I missed the deadline, or I probably missed the deadline, but is it too late to apply, or can you put me on a wait list? Plus, there are all kinds of websites that offer students the ability to apply for outside and private scholarships. Now, be careful when you do that, because there are a lot of fishers out there. We all know that about the web. So if you want to, there's one particular website called www.fastweb.com, fastweb.com. That is a very useful website for students. And basically, when you create a profile, you answer all kinds of wacky questions like, do you league bowl? Are you an athlete? What state are you from? Are your parents a member of any union? And then what FastWeb does is it offers you the opportunity to answer those questions, and then it will suggest to you scholarships to apply for. So I would heartily encourage anyone at this point to set up a FastWeb profile and apply for those scholarships, because even if you don't get one for your first year, you can get one for your second year. So, but my other suggestion would be to not use your personal email address to do that, because while it is helpful, they do send you a lot of emails every day. So what you might want to do is say john.doe@fastweb.com at whatever, Verizon.net or Comcast.com. That way you've only got one email address that you're answering those FastWeb questions at. So, and it's not interfering with their personal email.
Can I piggyback off that, Nat?
Yes, ma'am. Go
I
ahead,
was
Ms.
just
Webster.
I was just going to say too, talk to your high school counselors because I know this is about the time that they start posting. I know a lot of you probably are still virtual, but get in contact with your high school counselor because they have scholarship opportunities a lot of times that they can tell you about so you can start applying. I think it's around this time that they start doing that.
Yes, yes, ma'am, it is. So back in the days when the dinosaurs roamed the earth and I was in high school, my guidance counselor office actually had a file box, and I would go there every day, and there were little file folders with scholarships that I could apply for, and they would keep copies of the applications there. So your guidance counselor, as Mrs. Webster said, is actually a great source for scholarships, as well as your local organizations like your Lions Club, Ruritan, Seroptimus, any of those, fire companies, just like start asking around. It's like, you never know who has scholarship that they're going to give you. So don't be afraid and don't be bashful just to email those organizations in your local area to ask them, are you awarding scholarships? Plus, a lot of parents, employers actually have scholarships that they will give to students. And if your parents are members of a credit union, sometimes they have educational scholarships as well. So it's really like you just have to go out searching, searching. You don't be afraid to search. It's like just turn over every rock at this point. Okay, so the next question is, how do you accept the federal direct subsidized and unsubsidized loans? Okay, so I know Mrs. Webster in her previous presentation talked about self-service. So once you're able to locate self-service and log in, that is where you go. So when you're able to log into self-service, go to the financial aid counseling portal. Okay, so there's a couple of portals when you log into self-service. You want to go to financial aid counseling and click on it. And then once you click on it, it's going to tell you that you want to go to My Awards. It's basically My Awards. And then it's going to give you a list of awards on your financial aids like merit, grant, other awards. So when you get down to any award where you have to accept or decline, so you won't have to accept or decline all of them, but some of them you will have to accept or decline. In My Awards, you just have to accept those loans or decline those awards. It's very easy. Can I opt out of my meal plan? That's the next question. Um, that's really a question for residence life. But I believe if you're on campus, as far as I know, you cannot opt out of a meal plan. There are other if you don't want to have a meal plan or you don't have a full meal plan, there are lesser meal plans, but that's really a question you want to ask for residence life. I know that freshmen are required to have a certain kind of meal plan. I really apologize because I'm one of the counselors for returning students, so I'm not really sure about what is required for freshman students. But what you might want to do is contact Residence Life and ask them if you can opt out of your meal plan. But I think the only students who can opt out of a meal plan are those students who are approved to live off campus or at home. Are there any grants for out-of-state students? Yes. Good luck. Yes, there are. Good news. So actually, the other day I had to verify the enrollment status for a student in Delaware who received the Diamond State grant, and we also work with Vermont, and they have Vermont State grants. Other than that, we really haven't received any other grants from any other states. We used to work with Rhode Island, but Rhode Island will no longer work with us. But yes, we do accept outside grants if the states are willing to give us those funds for students. Mm-hmm. When you go to a school in Maryland from out of state, can you become a resident after going there? No. I'm sorry, you can't. The only way that you can become a resident in Maryland if you're a dependent student is if you and your parents both have a residence in Maryland for a certain period of time. So the state of Maryland only accepts residency based on what MHEC says, the Maryland Higher Education System. So both you and your parents would have to have established a permanent residence in Maryland for Mrs. Webster. Do you know how long that is? How many years the student has to live there and their parents?
I thought it was, my mind is saying 5, but I
Okay.
could be
Yeah.
wrong.
Mhm.
Yeah, maybe 3. I believe it's 3. It could be, okay, 3 years.
Okay.
I'll probably say 3.
Thank you, Mrs. Webster. Yes. So um, you actually, and if you're a dependent student, which most of our students are, have to have established a residence in Maryland for a certain period of time before you can be eligible for Maryland state grants. Okay, the next question is, can you review the difference between unsubsidized and subsidized loans? Well, the key word here that I always like to tell my students and my families is subsidy. So you receive a subsidy for the subsidized loan. So what the subsidized loan means, for that time that you're in school, at least half time, seeking your degree, any degree. So if you go 1, 2, 3, 4, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, right to graduate school, and you're in school at least half time, you're eligible for the interest subsidy, which means the government subsidizes your interest payment on your loan. The unsubsidized loan means that the government's going to give you the money. They're going to loan you the money, not give you the money. So, but you are responsible for paying the interest. Now, if you don't want to pay the interest while you're in school, that's fine. We understand that because some people just might not be able to. So, but the interest will accrue. So by the time you go into repayment, the amount of your unsubsidized loans, if you borrowed, so the maximum amount a student can receive is $2,000 a year. If you've got $8,000 a year in unsubsidized loans, based on just normal practices, then that interest is going to be accruing. And if you go into repayment in November after you graduated, that $8,000, if you haven't paid any of that interest, is going to be much higher than $8,000. So here's my own personal suggestion. And it's like, it really depends upon your personal circumstances. If you're receiving unsubsidized loans and accept them, then I know a lot of times students get maybe birthday money, or they work, or they get holiday money or graduation money. Put that away put a portion away of that in a separate account when you accept those unsubsidized loans. I'm not saying all the money you might earn when you're working. I'm just saying maybe like 10%, 25%. And then once your loans are dispersed to you, your subsidized and your unsubsidized loans, you're going to be assigned a loan servicing agency. There's probably like 13 now, but one of those agencies will help you take care of your loans. What you might want to do is create a username and profile for that loan servicing agency, and then perhaps maybe every 3 months, like, send them a certain portion of those savings that you put away. That way, when you go into repayment on those unsubsidized student loans, it's not as high as it might have been had you not made payments on it. So it's just, I hate paying interest on anything myself. So anytime I can make interest payments, I do. But sometimes it's just not feasible. But I mean, if you can make $25 payment every quarter on your unsubsidized loans, that's money that you don't have to repay once you're graduated from college and starting your life. But that's really a personal decision you're going to have to make yourself, but it's just a suggestion. So I hope that helps. Can my son take his federal loans in the second semester only rather than spreading them over the full year to lessen interest accrual and unsubsidized? Yes, students can reject their federal loans in the fall and accept them in the spring. And for more information on that, because of the way we have to award aid and origination fees, the best thing to do once your son comes to Washington College is to email the financial aid office, again, at the address that Mrs. Webster has given, fa_office@washcol.edu. And he can tell us, I don't want to use my loans in the fall. I'd rather use them in the spring. And then we can award them for the spring only. That's definitely an option. No problem. Last question. I received a scholarship that I applied for an organization in my town. How do I send that to Washington College? First of all, congratulations, because that's awesome. We are very proud of you. So really all you need to do is maybe make a scan of that donor letter that you received from that scholarship, and then send it to the FA_office box at washcol.edu. And what we can do is we can add that pending award to your financial aid until the funds actually arrive to Washington College. So again, scan the donor letter, mail the donor letter to Washington College's financial aid office, and we can add that award to your student's financial aid offer letter. And then that will come off the bill. And then once we receive the funds, we'll change it from pending to accepted. And that's awesome. That's a great question. We really appreciate that.
Thank you, Nat. I think we got them all or most of them. And if we didn't go over any, like Nat said, we'll email you and respond to you, this week as well. But Nat, good job. Thank you for answering those great questions, and great questions, audience. Really good
Yes.
questions.
Yes, great questions from this
yeah.
audience. Yep, that was well thought out. We are so thankful for that.
Absolutely. And we appreciate you taking your time out tonight. And like we said, we hope we answer your questions when it comes to the offer letter or anything else we discussed. If not, like Nat said, don't hesitate to reach out to our office. That's what we're here for, to guide you through, the process. And we wish you well. We can't wait to see you all back on campus, and have a wonderful night. Thank you.
Good night, everybody. Thank you so much.